Hi, this is Donna. Welcome to DD Paper Crafts. In today's video, we're making this one sheet gift box treat box project. This is 5 inches tall and it's 2.5 at the widest point in the middle, and it narrows to 1.5 inches. It has an opening at the top, and you can see that the top does actually expand, so you can get a good sized gift in there. Maybe a small bottle of perfume or something might fit in there, and then the top comes together like so. I have decorated mine so that it sits vertically, but you could actually have this in this orientation and decorate it, and it does have this rocker effect. So you do have some options in terms of the decoration. I've sized this so it can be made from one sheet of A4 or US letter cardstock, and you would be able to change the size easily if you needed to. So without further ado, let's put the project together. So as I said at the beginning, this will be made with one sheet of cardstock. Obviously you can enlarge this and you might need to join two pieces together. Your cardstock will either be the width of A4, i.e. 8.25, or the width of US letter times 10.5 inches. And all it will mean is on the A4 cardstock, you'll have a 1/4 inch glue tab rather than a 1/2 inch glue tab. Along the 8.5 or the 8.25 inch side, score at 1/2 inch, 2 inches, and 7 inches. On the long side, 2.5 inches, 5 inches, 7.5 inches, and 10 inches. Rotate the piece back to the short side and you'll have your 1/2 inch tab at the top. In the second largest section down and the last section down, so this one and this one, we're going to score at 1.5 inches between the score lines. So skip the first score line, come down to the second score line and score, and then skip the next section, come down to the last section and score. So you'll have these two sections which have got these additional score lines in. So the next thing we want to do is have your piece along the long side, and we're going to line our ruler up with the 4 inch mark, or if you prefer this look, if I just put the prototype back together. So this came, so you preferred it with this wider channel, line your ruler up with the 3.5 inch track. So I'm going to do mine at the 4 inches for this example, and on the left hand side and all the way along through, I'm just going to make a pencil mark on the score line like so, and then I'm going to move my ruler down to the 5 inch mark and do the same. If you've done the 1.5 inch here, so your ruler was in line with 3.5, you'll move your ruler down to 5.5. I'm marking as so. So you can see here, this section here is going to be 1 inch, whereas the section between the pencil marks on this version is going to be 2 inches. So this would be the score, the pencil marks would be 3.5 and 5.5. Whereas with this one, they're at 4 and 5. And the next thing I'm going to do is fold over along the second long score line. So this is the score line which is at 2 inches. Fold that under like so. Place the piece back in the scoreboard and make a pencil mark at 1/2 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, 4.5 inches, 5.5 inches, 7 inches, 8 inches and 9.5 inches. So it's 1/2 inch from either the edge or the score line that separates the section. Fold that out so your piece looks like this, and fold under the bottom score line. And we're going to rotate so our 1/2 inch tab is on the left hand side, and do exactly the same. We're marking 1/2 inch from either the edge of the cardstock or the score line. So the first pencil mark will be 1 inches, 2.5, 3.5, 5, 6, 7.5, 8.5, and 10. Remove that from the scoreboard, and we're going to fold and burnish along the score lines. Bring in your stylus and ruler, the 1/2 inch sections over on the right, and we're going to put in our additional score lines. So the first one, we're going to score from the pencil mark here down to the first pencil mark on this side here. And we're going to do that all the way along. So we'll have a V, we'll have 1/2 a V here, and then we'll have a V scored all the way along across the top. And then we will repeat that in the bottom sections. And you will either be scoring down to your 3.5 or your 4 inch pencil mark. So just work your way along. Okay, so that's how your piece looks. You can see all the additional score lines. And next you want to bring in your scissors. So if you keep the piece in this orientation, we want to create our base tabs, and our base is only going to be as wide as the score lines here. So I'm going to line my scissors up with the pencil mark and just cut up to that pencil mark like so. And I'm going to do that all the way along, like so. So we've got all these flappy bits. So I'm going to bring it round. The first small section here, I'm going to cut along the score line and remove that, like so. I'm going to move this flap behind and then cut away the next 2 sections until I reach my next cut line. Oops. Like so. So I've got a base glue tab and then a gap. I'm going to move that one out of the way and then cut away the next 2. Move that one out the way, cut away the next 2, move that one out the way, and then cut along to the top. So this is how the base looks. Rotate the piece 180 degrees. Ignore the fact that I've cut these. I'm going to make life a little bit easier. Have the piece in this orientation. Cut down the second score line, so this one here. So this piece would still be joined and this will be cut. Then we're going to rotate and we're going to cut that section away. Like so. Okay, so your piece will look like this. Rotate the piece back and we're going to cut down, as we did for the base, in line with the pencil mark, like so. And then I'm going to rotate and I'm going to remove that section. And then I'm going to do the same with the pencil mark this side. Okay, so this piece will all be joined and this will be loose. Rotate, and I'm going to cut along this additional score line that we've put in place, like so. So this piece is still all joined together. I'm going to move along and cut in line with the next pencil line. So we're now going to create the lid, and then I'm going to move this tab out of the way and cut this section away, like so. So your piece is all joined together, like so. And then we're going to cut down level with the next pencil mark. So this is our lid. This is all joined together. This is our lid. And then we're going to create the final tab. So we'll cut level with the pencil line, like so. I'm going to remove these two sections. Let's move this out of the way and remove those. And then I'm going to cut down level with the final one. Remove that section and then cut along the additional score line. So your piece looks like this so far. So then rotate. We're just going to work on this last glue tab. I'm going to cut towards, at an angle, this bottom pencil line, and then cut up and remove that part of the glue tab, like so. And then I'm going to cut towards this pencil line from this direction and from that direction, and then I'm going to shape the top. So this is how our piece looks. So I'm just going to get rid of all of my pencil marks. So now that is prepared, we can do our folding and burnishing. So this first score line is going to fold under, like so, as is the one at this end. So each of the angled score lines are going to be mounting folds. So this is going to fold in like so. This one's going to fold in like so. This one's going to fold in like so. And then what will happen is this central one will be a valley fold, and these two pieces are going to come together and fold over one another like so. So that's the look that you want to get. So I'm just going to fold those together and burnish those down. So your piece is going to fold together at the top like so. We'll do the same at the base. Just take your time. You want to get nice crisp edges and just work your way along. Okay, so that's our piece. The next thing we want to do is join up sides of the box. So we're going to start with the two tabbed sections. I'm going to join these two glue tabs onto their relevant sides, and then we're going to add glue to one of these triangles, and then that is going to fold in over the other triangle. So they are going to come together like so. So they are adhered together like so. We've got a glue tab under the side of the top, glue tab in the middle, and then these two triangles are added together. So we're now going to add glue and add the remaining triangles sections on the bottom sections. So I've added some glue into here, and we're going to add those triangles together. So do that all the way along. And then we can add the base glue tabs together. So this is the front of the box. So I'm going to move those ones out of the way, add glue onto these side glue tabs and stick the base into place. I can just go in from the top and just burnish that down. Make sure that your top panels are burnished thoroughly, because that's what will hold the lid in place. So that will all come together, and then that will come and slot in the front, and then the top will come together and the lid will hold in place like so. You need to make sure that these top sections are thoroughly burnished, otherwise you might find that your lid is popping out. But if you needed to, you could also always have your tab sitting on the outside and maybe a little glue dot underneath, but you can see how that comes together. So that's our box now ready for decoration. Here's the finished decorated box, and I have chosen to decorate it in a vertical orientation. The pattern paper is 4 3/4 times 2 1/4, and I cut one piece, laid it on the top, and then marked where I wanted the angles to come down. Once I was happy with the look of that, I used that as a template on the remaining 3 sides. I then have an additional square on the top, and this is 1 1/4 inches square. As I mentioned in the video, you could decorate it so it was in this orientation if you so wanted. So there we have today's one sheet gift box. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel, and until next time, thanks for watching.